So, it was about a year ago, I was talking to my brother about my YouTube channel. I wasn't sure if I should make more robot videos, because after all, this is mostly a robot channel. He said cats. People love cats. Then he said kittens. People love kittens. I'm not a big fan of cats. Maybe more cars, I said. You know, cars, but something different about them. Yeah, small cars, but not that small. Oh yeah, go-karts. Making go-karts faster. Or just go-kart engines, modifying small engines. And then he said, well, what about putting a go-kart engine in a small car? Hey, welcome back to Robot Cantina. Today I have a special for you. It's actually another viewer suggested video. Now some of you folks want to get a closer look at our street legal go-kart, and today I'll show you the ins and outs of the slowest car ever built. To begin with, this is, or was, a 2001 Honda Insight gasoline electric hybrid. Now of course all the hybrid stuff was removed.
How dare you!
Anyway, nowadays these cars are getting really hard to find. Now here's a little bit of trivia. Honda only made a total of 17,000 of these cars throughout its 5-year production run. These cars were pretty expensive when new. Now most of these cars have been retired by now, and more, the remaining cars are being modified with the high-performance K series engine swap. These little gems are a great starting point for building a fast car, except I didn't get that memo in time. But I'm trying. Although you can't tell from the picture, this car has been stripped to the bone and all unnecessary parts were removed. My primary concern when stripping the car was to make sure the car would still appear normal looking and still be safe to drive. I estimate there's less than 100 pounds of cosmetic items still left on the car, and that's by purpose. Some would argue that more parts can be removed to help out with performance, but at this point I'm not willing to go that far. Well, let's start off with the interior. At first glance the interior appears normal, and for the most part it is. Honda built this car as light as possible, and generally everything you see doesn't weigh very much. It's the stuff that you don't see that is heavy, if that makes any sense. So right away you'll notice the car is equipped with a manual transmission, and that's not too surprising. Most of these little shit boxes came with stick shift trannies. But wait a second, where's the clutch pedal? Well, there ain't none, and that's a mind for most people. You see, the 5-speed manual transmission is connected to an automatic torque converter clutch, and I'll show you that in a minute. But first let's finish the tour of the interior. So here we have the all-important tachometer. Now here's one for you. If you go back and watch some of the previous episodes, you'll see the tachometer flashing red, and that, boys and girls, is me pushing this engine way past redline. You know, it happens a lot. This ugly thing tagged to the dashboard is a 2-channel thermocouple meter. I use this to keep track of the cylinder head temperature and the air temperature at the carburetor. The speedometer that I'm using is a $30 GPS unit, and it works pretty good. Anyway, the explosive device for the steering wheel airbag was removed, and the passenger side airbag was completely removed. The key poking out of the dashboard is the starter and kill switch. I've purposely never shown the car being started with the electric starter, but it's wired for one, and depending on what engine I'm using, sometimes there's an electric starter. As a matter of fact, the starter is clearly visible in some of the videos. The knob to the right of the key switch is the choke. Again, depending on what engine's in the car, sometimes the choke is hooked up. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and unfortunately a lot of stuff doesn't make it to the video. Right here is an example of weight savings. As you can see, the real ignition switch and combination switch were removed. As a matter of fact, everything behind the dashboard fascia has been removed. There's virtually nothing of any significance behind the dashboard, except for some bracing. The combination turn signal and headlight switch are one of the few remaining electrical items available to the driver. The oversized indicator lamps are on purpose. You see, the noise inside the car can sometimes be unbearable, and it's hard to hear if the turn signals are on. The driver's power window switch is, complicated. The dashboard switch is just for looks. Now, follow along if you can. Here's the battery we'll need to lower the window. The actual switch is located here, and right here is where you connect the window battery. Now let's go through the process. First you grab the window battery, turn it on, then plug it in. Now the window can be raised or lowered. I might fix this. Thankfully the power mirrors are a lot simpler. Although the car has a few quirks, it's a lot more comfortable than a go-kart. You might actually say this is the Cadillac of go-karts, to be honest. Now let's take a look under the hood. So this is the 212cc engine that was built in episode 7, and it's capable of propelling the car up to 54 miles an hour on a flat and level road. The car is of course equipped with a battery to run all the electrical items. This battery is somewhat misleading. It's small but packs a big punch. It is a lightweight Mazda Miata battery, and it's not a lawnmower battery. So this battery was fully charged in late June of this year and didn't need to be recharged until November. How is that possible? Well, the car doesn't use any electricity except for the brake and turn signals. Now, I don't drive the car at night or in the rain, so there's no need to run the headlamps or the wipers, but they do work. The original electrical harness was massive and it weighed plenty. I pitched the harness and fabricated a simple lightweight harness. This little box is original to the car, but it's been repurposed to be the main fuse and relay box. Not really much to see here, but it's interesting nonetheless. Now, the car was originally equipped with ABS brakes, however they have since been deleted and now the car has standard brakes. Doing an ABS brake delete on one of these cars is not easy. The entire hydraulic system has to be replaced and a new proportioning valve needs to be installed. The proportioning valve was sourced from a non-ABS equipped 2001 Honda Civic and it was relocated right under the master cylinder. The all-new brake lines were fabricated from nickel copper alloy and will never rust. The funny thing about these Honda Insights is they're all aluminum and therefore don't rust. But believe it or not, rust is a big problem with these cars. Yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense. You see, the brake lines are notorious for rusting through and are often the reason these cars end up selling for scrap. The transmission bell housing adapter was hand cut from a 1/4 inch thick slab of 6061 aluminum. The blue engine cradle bolts right up to the bell housing adapter to form a rigid base to mount the engine. The cradle itself is made from 1¼ inch angle iron that's 1/8 of an inch thick. When you break it down to the individual components, this system was fairly simple to build. Here's a closer look at the cradle before it was installed in the car. Now, in a future episode, we're going to be making a new cradle from scratch in order to accommodate both the 212 and 420cc engines. Of course, I'll bring you guys along for the entire build. While we're here, let's take a look at how the automatic torque converter clutch works. So right now the transmission is in neutral and there's just a tiny bit of drag that keeps the pulley spinning. And as you can see, I can easily stop the pulley with the screwdriver. When I rev the engine, you can see the clutch engage, and you can also see how the pulleys change in size. The variable size pulleys actually multiply the engine torque and provide a lot of extra power to accelerate the car. Now when the car is in gear, it behaves like an automatic transmission, at least until you have to shift gears. Over here we can see the sprocket and chain drive on the jack shaft. Let's take a look at a still shot and I'll try to explain what's going on. The gear ratios on a stock Honda Insight transmission are not ideal for a lawnmower engine. You see, Honda engineered this transmission with a hybrid powertrain in mind. A completely stock Honda Insight can accelerate up to 60 miles an hour in first gear. It can do this because the car originally had a gasoline engine and an electric motor. Or in other words, first gear is very steep. Also, the ratio between first and second gear is fairly wide. I'm using the sprockets and chain drive to gear down the transmission and effectively make second gear into first gear. At this point, the ratio spread between the rest of the gears is more ideal. So this is currently where the fuel tank is. The fuel tank has actually been moved a few times during this video series, and I'm not really happy where it's at right now. Anyway, the tank holds a little bit less than a gallon of gasoline. Now in episode 6 we discovered the car got 54 miles to the gallon, which isn't too bad. Now in episode 7 we put in the stage 2 engine and got the car to break the 50 mile per hour barrier, but in doing so it looks like the gas mileage dropped off considerably. I'm sad to say I no longer have any idea what kind of fuel economy the car gets. So here's a question for you. Do you folks care about fuel economy? You see, gas mileage is not necessarily on our radar because it's not our goal. If you think the data is important, we will include those numbers in future episodes. If you can, write a note in the comment section. Anyway, we're going to move the fuel tank again, but I'm running out of places to put it. The good news is, this engine's equipped with a pulse-type fuel pump, so we can pretty much put the fuel tank anywhere. The exhaust system works awesome, but it's not what you think. The muffler is actually bolted to the transmission and transfers a lot of heat to the transmission case. This unexpected feature helps warm up the gear oil, and on colder days it really helps out a lot. For example, when the outside temperature drops below 60 Fahrenheit, the car is very sluggish and it takes about a half hour to 45 minutes to warm the car up. Most, if not all, the sluggishness is due to the cold transmission oil. Now on a normal car this is not a big deal, but with our limited horsepower this makes a big difference. Now at this point I reckon some of you want to go for a ride. Well... so let's look at some older footage. Now this is an interesting shot, and I'll play it twice in case some of you miss it. Anyway, listen to the engine as the car accelerates. About 4 to 5 seconds into the acceleration you can hear the torque converter finally lock up. So from 0 to about 15 miles an hour, the torque converter is doing a great job by multiplying the engine torque. Now in the next shot you can hear the exhaust and how the engine's working really hard. Well, I'm sorry there wasn't any new footage for the drive portion. If you're new to the channel, there's a bunch of other videos I think you'll like to watch. I'll put a link in the description. Now let's see what else is on YouTube. Oh, cats. Hey, if you're still watching, you must have enjoyed the video. Do me a favor and click on the like button. And while you're at it, click on subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification bell. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop a note in the comment section. Thanks for watching.